Okay guys, revision of chapter 2 unit 1 law of demand and elasticity of demand. What is the meaning of demand? What does demand comprise of? First, there needs to be the desire for the commodity, then willingness to pay, ability to pay, quantity demanded has to be at a certain price, and a continuous flow of activities. Okay. Now next, what are determinants or factors of demand? Price of the commodity. First, price of the commodity. There is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Higher the price, lower the quantity demanded. Lower the price, higher the quantity demanded. Ceteris paribus. Other things being constant or equal. Yes? Next, prices of related commodities. Complementary goods and substitutes. What are complementary goods? First, we'll take an example. What is a complementary good example? Tea and sugar. Yes? So one cannot generally do without the other. That's what complementary goods mean. When you buy one, you buy the other one. But here you're talking about the relationship between price of the commodity and quantity demanded of its complementary good. So if the price of the commodity increases, quantity demanded of the complementary good also falls. And price of the commodity decreases, quantity demanded of the complementary good. So there is a inverse relationship between price of the commodity and quantity demanded of its complementary good. Yeah, substitutes. There is a direct relationship between price of the commodity and quantity demanded of the other substitute. What are substitutes? Chai, coffee, correct. Tea and coffee is their substitutes. If the price of one commodity increases, the quantity demanded of another substitute increases. If the price of one commodity falls, the quantity demanded of the substitute falls. I understand. Drink some water, wash your face. Happens. No. Makhi nahi gayi, I was like, going to save yourself from a mosquito. Okay, anyway. Continuing. Disposable income of the consumer. What is the disposable income? What a person can purchase at. So disposable income is what a person has to spend on various goods and services. Generally the relationship is direct. Higher the income, higher is the quantity demanded in respect to three goods, which are normal goods, inferior goods and essential consumer goods. What are normal goods? Where the same theory applies. Yes? What are inferior goods? It at up to a certain level, the demand is increasing. After that, you are shifting from these inferior goods, which are your canned goods, frozen goods, low quality goods. You are shifting from these to better quality ingredients. So the demand for this will fall as your income increases. Third, essential consumer goods. The proportion in which your income increases is always going to be more than a proportion in which your demand for necessaries increases. Yes, you cannot have more of something just because the prices or your income is very, very high. Okay? Tastes and preferences of buyers. What does it mean? The general trends in the economy, what is going on in the economy, what is consumers' taste right now, what kind of pattern, what kind of quality of good they are wanting. That's the trend or taste and preference of consumers. These trends are affected by four effects, which are demonstration effect is when you see someone using a commodity, you find it useful and use it. You didn't have a need for it, but you saw it and you bought it. Demonstration effect. Bandwagon effect, to fit in. You're buying something just because you want to fit into a particular society. Third, snob effect, to be exclusive. I do not want what everyone has, I will buy something exclusive. Next, Veblen effect, given by Thorstein Veblen. Thorstein Veblen has given the Veblen effect, in which he talks about conspicuous consumption, meaning You are consuming something to show off. Yes? Okay. Consumers' expectations. Future prices or income. How you expect the future price or income or any other thing to increase or decrease. If the price of a commodity you expect is going to increase in the future, you buy today. If you feel it's going to fall later, you do not buy today and you wait for the future event. But does this hamper our current quantity demanded? Size of population, higher the population, higher will be the quantity demanded. Age distribution of population, depending on which age group they fall, what is your target audience basically? According to that, you see which quantity is demanded in which sense. If it's for children, then your toys, books, basic cars which they use, whatever, those kind of things are more attractive. Your population ratio, if 30% or 40% of your population is kids or infants, in that case obviously you would be producing more goods which they would want. Okay? Then the level of national income and its distribution. Higher the national income, higher will be the quantity demanded. But it happens mostly in case where at least some even distribution of income is happening, because only then everybody is accessible to those goods. Consumer credit facility and interest rate. Higher the credit facility, higher the quantity demanded. Lower the interest rates, higher the quantity demanded. Government policies and regulations. Here you are talking about any policy which the government puts affects your company and will affect your quantity demanded. So in this case we generally talk about two things, like taxation. If government taxes more, price goes up, quantity demanded falls. If it gives subsidies, price goes down, quantity demanded increases. What is the demand function? Relationship between quantity demanded and its determinants. Quantity demanded and its determinants. So this is Qx is equal to F function Px y Pr, where Px is price of the commodity, y is income, and Pr is price of related goods. What are independent variables? All the determinants. What is the dependent variable? Quantity demanded. Law of demand. What is the relationship between? Inverse relationship between price of the commodity and quantity demanded of the commodity. Again, higher the price, lower the quantity demanded, lower the price, higher the quantity demanded. Given by Alfred Marshall. Okay. Other things remaining the same. Ceteris paribus. Do not forget. What is the demand schedule? Where you can see at various prices what are the quantities demanded for a given period of time. Yes? By an individual. When you are talking about a demand schedule, first you are talking about an individual's tastes and preferences or the quantity he is going to demand at various prices. That's a demand schedule. Now what is happening in this demand schedule? As the price is going down, quantity demanded is increasing, and as the price is going up, decreasing. So as price increases, fewer and fewer quantity is going to be demanded. What is the demand curve? It's a graphical representation of the demand schedule. Graphical representation of the demand schedule. How does the curve look? Downward sloping or a negative slope. Reason? Inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Okay, now the slope of the demand curve is minus delta P by delta Q. Guys, generally the demand curve can be linear, non-linear or curvilinear. For our understanding, we assume that they are linear. Okay? Because it's a convenient tool. Market demand schedule. What is this? It is the sum of all the buyers for that particular product at different prices. What at different prices, what all the buyers in the market are demanding at that price is the market demand schedule. So you know demand schedule is individual consumers. So you put together those individual consumers, club them, that is the market demand schedule or market demand curve. So you are seeing we've taken suppose for two people, A and B. You can see there is individual demand. Yes? And this is the total market demand. Now can I say this is a lateral summation of demand curve? Come on. Here, is it a lateral summation of demand curves? Come on, try, understand what am I saying? Are we not adding them? For understanding, it's called lateral summation of demand. If you want to write it down, because this can be a question. Lateral summation of individual demand curves. Lateral summation is SUMMATION. Lateral summation means sum of all. Yeah. So lateral summation of individual demand curves. Lateral summation of individual demand curves. That is nothing but the market demand schedule. Now, what is rationale of law of demand? First, price effect of a fall in price. When the price falls, what is the price effect? We have two effects in this case, substitution effect and income effect. Now, connect this substitution effect of Hicks and Allen with your substitution effect of indifference curve. Who has given indifference curve? Hicks and Allen. And we have read in the differences that you can differ the substitution effect from the income effect. This is the reason, because he has differentiated this and he has used it in the indifference curve. Okay? So what is substitution effect? When a price of a commodity falls and all the other related commodities stay the same, the prices of all other related commodities are the same. What happens to the price of the commodity which has fallen? Quantity demanded of that particular commodity increases. Okay? But there are three things in which this transformation can happen. First, they need to be closed substitutes, lower cost of switching to the substitute good, and lower inconvenience to shift to the substitute good. Yes? This is substitution effect when price falls, given by Hicks and Allen. Income effect. When price of the commodity falls, what happens? Either you buy the same commodity at a lower price, or you buy more of the commodity at the price, at the same price. More of the commodity at the same price. So either your purchasing power increases or your real income increases. When you buy same quantity at lower price, what increases? Real income increases, because you are saving some income. So real income is increasing. And when you are buying more at the same price, then your purchasing power is increasing. Utility maximizing behavior of consumers. As more and more of a unit is consumed, the lesser and lesser satisfaction is derived from that product. So when you start consuming a product, after a certain point of time, you would only want to pay lesser and lesser price for that product. That's what it means. Arrival of new consumers. As the price falls, new consumers are added into the equation. Different uses. If the price increases, we use it for whatever we use. If the price falls, you can use the same thing for number of purposes. Example, milk. So you can use it for a number of purposes based on the price. What are the exceptions to law of demand? First, conspicuous goods. What are conspicuous goods? Nothing but prestige goods. Here the law of demand does not apply, because higher the price, higher is the quantity demanded. Because you are seeing, generally there is an inverse relationship. Here there is a direct relationship. Veblen effect comes into force here. Yes? The more expensive the good is, the more show off it looks like. Okay? Giffen goods. What are Giffen goods? There are no close substitutes of Giffen goods. All Giffen goods are inferior goods, but all inferior goods are not Giffen goods. Yes? So in case of Giffen goods, because there are no close substitutes, there is a direct relationship between price and quantity demanded. Because when the price of the basic good increases and the price of other goods you are assuming increases more, So you remove those from your budget and increase the consumption of the basic good. Yes? Example, bajra, potato and stuff like this. Yeah? Okay. Future conspicuous necessities. What does this mean? People did not want them. Just to fit in, just to be exclusive, or just because it is demonstrated by someone else, you are using that product or buying that product. So demand has not increased in a normal sense. It has conspicuous necessities की वजह से that has increased. Is that clear? What is future expectation of prices? We know what future expectation means. Why is it an exception? Because with the future demand, with the future price increase or decrease or income increase or decrease, current quantity demanded is affected. So it does not, general law of demand is not applying there. Incomplete information or irrational behavior. Impulse buys, impulse purchases without rationally thinking whether it's useful or not. You have just got and bought something without any information. That is not in contrary. Is it contradicting the law of demand? Contradiction means against. Opposite. We are reading exceptions. It is now, it's an exception. No, I am going and randomly buying something without thinking why the price is this or quantity is this. Irrational, not rational. Irrational behavior. It's an exception. Okay? Demand for necessaries. Irrespective of the price, you are going to buy the necessaries. Speculative goods. When the prices start increasing, they look more good to buy it at that point because you think there is going to be a further increase. Share market, yes, share market, bonds, all of this come into that category. What is expansion and contraction of demand? When the price increases and the quantity demanded falls, there is a contraction in demand, meaning the demand has come down. And when there is a decrease in price and increase in quantity demanded, there is an expansion of demand. It is moving along the same demand curve. It's a movement along the same demand curve. Yes? What is increase and decrease in demand? When quantity demanded increases because of any other factor other than price, it is increase in demand. When quantity demanded decreases or the demand for a product decreases because of other factors other than price, then there is decrease in demand. When there is an increase in demand, there is a rightward shift of the demand curve. When there is a decrease in demand, there is a leftward shift in the demand curve. So here there is no movement along the demand curve, there is a shift in the demand curve. The demand curve actually shifts from one position to another. So when you are talking about expansion and contraction of demand, you are talking about change in quantity demanded. And when you are talking about increase and decrease in demand, it is only change in demand. Okay. Now this we have already discussed. Chalo. Elasticity of demand. What does it mean? It is the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in any one of the determinants of demand. Yes? Percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in any one of the factor or determinant of demand. Yes? Price elasticity of demand shows the relationship between price and quantity demanded. How the quantity demanded responds to a change in price. We need to understand how the elasticities come. Why do you need price elasticity of demand? To understand the impact of change in price on your sales. What is the impact of the change in price on sales, and how, even if the prices keep changing, how you focus on profit maximization. Yes? Okay. What is the formula for this? Percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price. So EP is equal to delta Q by delta P into P by Q. Delta Q is change in quantity demanded. Then delta P is change in price. P is original price. Q is original quantity. A negative sign on elasticity of demand. What is it basically saying? An inverse relationship between price and quantity demand. But for your problems, you will take the absolute value. Please take the absolute value. Okay, great. Different types of price elasticity of demand. Perfectly elastic demand. What does small? See, when there is a small increase in price for that particular seller, you are saying the quantity demanded is 0. And when there is a small, even if a small decrease in price, the demand increases to infinity. So basically, is it insensitive to price change? Yeah, insensitive or insensitive? Very, very sensitive to price change. So what is the graph look like? It's parallel to the x-axis. Next, unitary elastic demand. Percentage change in quantity demanded is equal to percentage change in price. So here you are saying it's a rectangular hyperbola. What is a rectangular hyperbola? The curve under which all the rectangles are of equal areas. Okay. Is that clear? Next, relatively elastic demand. Percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than percentage change in price. What is your EP here? Greater than 1. So I am saying if there is a small change in price, the quantity demanded will change more than the price. Relatively inelastic demand. Percentage change in quantity demanded is less than percentage change in price. EP is less than 1. Is it clear to everyone? So, is it relatively insensitive to price change? Yes, because if there is an increase or decrease in price, the impact of quantity demanded is much lesser. So here what kind of goods are generally considered? Necessaries, salt, medicines, all these kinds of goods. Perfectly inelastic demand. No change in quantity demanded when price changes. What is EP? Is equal to 0. It is parallel to the y-axis. Sure. Now methods of measuring price elasticity of demand. First, point elasticity. When there is an infinitesimally small change in price, what will be the impact on quantity demanded at a particular point is what we are trying to find out in point elasticity of demand. So it's basically percentage change in quantity demanded to a percentage change in infinitesimally small amount of price. Yes? Now what is the formula? If given a straight line and you are looking at a linear demand curve, lower segment of the demand curve by upper segment of the demand curve. As you move down, is the elasticity increasing or decreasing? Decreasing. And as you move up, it is increasing. Arc elasticity. When there are two prices and two quantities, and you have to find out the elasticity between them over an arc, then you use the midpoint formula or the average method. You cannot take either one of them as the base price. Reason, you will get different elasticities. So you take a average method. Okay. Now what is the formula for that? Q2 minus Q1 by Q2 plus Q1 into P2 plus P1 by P2 minus P1. Everybody can measure arc elasticity, guys. Please do not forget the formulas. Total outlay method of calculating price elasticity. First, what is total revenue? Price into quantity sold, and total expenditure, price into quantity purchased. So we are comparing the total expenditure and total revenue with the changes in price. That is what we are doing in total outlay method. You are comparing the price of a commodity with the total expenditure or total revenue. Now first, in the case of price elasticity demand equals 1 or unity. What does this mean? So there is no change in there is no change in total expenditure or total revenue with any change in price. Whether there is an increase in price or decrease in price, what stays the same? The expenditure or revenue remains the same. Okay? So that is, what is your elasticity there? E is equal to 1, unity. Price elasticity of demand is greater than unity, meaning when there is an increase in price, the total expenditure or total revenue declines, and when there is a decrease in price, total revenue or total expenditure increases. There is a negative relationship between price and total expenditure or total revenue. Yes? So with then next one, price elasticity of demand is less than unity. When the price increases, total expenditure or total revenue also increases, and when the price falls, total expenditure or total income also or total revenue also increases. Falls, yeah. When they increase, increases. Falls, falls. So there is a positive relationship between price and TE or TR. Is it clear, everyone? Now there are two effects which we talk about. One is price effect and quantity effect. As a price increases, after a price increase, each unit sold is at a higher price. So the total revenue is increasing. And after a price decrease, each unit is sold at a lesser price. So your total revenue is decreasing. Quantity effect. As the price increases, fewer quantities are sold, which means that revenue is decreasing. And when price decreases, more units of goods are sold, so total revenue is increasing. Do you understand? When you put it into the total outlay method scenario, in which case do you apply quantity effect and in which case do you apply price effect? When there is an inverse relationship, quantity effect. When there is a positive relationship, price effect. When there is a inverse or negative relationship between price and TE or TR, then quantity effect. And when there is a positive relation between them, price effect. Guys, these questions are very tricky when they come in the exam. Please be prepared for them. You all look like half dead. I am just revising what we've already read. And abhi ye halat hai. Determinants of price elasticity of demand. Availability of substitutes, meaning what? When there are more number of substitutes, elasticity is high. When there are no close substitutes or lesser substitutes, relatively inelastic demand. Yes? Okay. Then position of a commodity in consumer's budget means what? How much amount of your budget you spend on various commodities. The lesser the amount you spend, lesser is the elasticity. And when you know that this is a huge part of my budget, I will make an effort to change the impact of that on my spending. How? We spoke about rent. If rent of a particular place has increased, okay, I have to pay it. But I will look for an alternative solution in the meantime because it's a huge amount of money. So is it elastic? Yes, because I'm looking for a change. So it is elastic. Nature of the need that a commodity satisfies, meaning luxury necessities are inelastic demand. Luxury goods, elastic demand, because you can always postpone the purchase or buy it at a future date. Or you can, if you're buying a branded stuff because it's in discount, you can always go back to the product you were always buying. Chalo. Number of uses to which a commodity can be put. More the number of uses, more elastic. Less number of uses, less is the elasticity. Time period. If it's a short term change, then inelastic, because you don't have an option. You have to pay that price. But if you get a long term time, then you can change the way it is, and we use the example of petrol, I think, in this case. Cars, petrol, whatever. Chalo. Next, consumer habits. It is inelastic. Some things are not going to change irrespective of the price. Tight demand. Complementary goods. Is it inelastic or elastic? Inelastic. Price range. See, price range, you leave it. You leave it. You will get confused. Minor complementary items. Inelastic? Matlab, if you are buying the main good, you have to buy the complementary product. So then it becomes inelastic. That good which you are buying is elastic or inelastic is separate. Are you understanding? But the complementary good, you have to buy it. Like I told you, iPhone and charger. iPhone is a necessity, I don't think so. It isn't. But if that is bought, then charger is the inelastic demand. You have to buy it. Okay? Is it clear? Now, what is the impact it has on managers? How do managers take decisions regarding their products, the prices, and how the elasticity of demand? I gave it in your notes. That's why I asked you to open them. If your product has an elastic demand, then what happens? Chalo, come on. So if I increase my price, if my product has an elastic demand, will I lose customers and revenue and demand for my product? If my product has an inelastic demand, the increase in price will increase my total revenue. Yes? Price effect, quantity effect. That's what we are talking about, guys, again. Is it clear, everyone? Income elasticity of demand. Responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in income. Percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in income. So that is delta Q by delta Y into Y by Q. Where change in quantity demanded, change in income, original income by original quantity. Clear, everybody? So what are the various elasticities you have here? When the good is unresponsive to changes in price, changes in income. When a good is unresponsive to changes in income, what happens to the elasticity? Elasticity is 0. Okay. When the proportion of income is? When percentage change in income is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded, then EI is equal to 1. Percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than percentage change in income. EI is greater than 1. Percentage change in quantity demanded is less than percentage change in income. EI is less than 1. And what's the last case? Less than 0 is we are talking about inferior goods. Here you take the negative value. The goods in case in which income elasticity is negative are inferior goods. They are inferior goods. In price elasticity of demand, you take the absolute value. In income elasticity, you take as per whatever comes. But if it's a negative sign, it is a inferior good. Please remember that. It's called negative income elasticity of demand. Cross elasticity of demand. Change in quantity demanded of a related good with respect or response to change in price of the other related good. So these goods are interrelated. Thank you. These goods are interrelated. Yes? No? Yes? Okay. So how does cross elasticity look like? Percentage change in quantity demanded of good X by percentage change in price of good Y. So there are two interrelated goods, whether they are substitutes or complementary goods. So here delta Qx by delta Py into Py by Qx. What is delta Qx? Change in quantity demanded of good X by change in price of good Y into original price of good Y by original quantity of good X. Is it clear? Now what are substitute products and demand? Here you take the example of tea and coffee. So is there a direct relationship or inverse relationship? Direct relationship. So if the price of tea increases or coffee increases, demand for tea increases. If the price of coffee falls, demand for tea also falls. Because, is it clear? Now what are the conditions? If the two goods are perfect substitutes for each other, the cross elasticity between them is infinite. Then if two goods are close substitutes, elasticity is positive and large. When they are not so close substitutes, it's still positive but small. And if two goods are totally unrelated, the elasticity between them is 0 because you cannot substitute it. Complementary goods. Okay, so you take tea and sugar for example. Inverse relationship. If the price increases of one good, the quantity demanded of the other good decreases. Is that clear? Now in case of complementaries, how do you know they are strong complements and weak complements? If it is somewhere close to 0, and complementary goods always have a negative sign because there is an inverse relationship. Substitutes have a positive sign because direct relationship. So when you talk about cross elasticity of demand, again you are not taking the absolute value. You are taking either plus or minus sign. If it's a plus sign, substitutes. Negative sign? Clear? So when they are close to 0, weak complements. When they are large, strong complements. Yes? What is advertisement elasticity? Change in quantity demanded in response to change in cost of advertisement expenses. Whatever changes you have made in advertisement expenses, based on that, how much your quantity demanded has changed. Percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in spending on advertising. Delta QD by delta A into A by QD. Delta QD is change in quantity demanded. Delta A, change in cost of advertising. Then original cost by original quantity. Is it clear, guys, everyone? So when demand does not respond to all the increase in advertisement expenditure, EA is 0. Increase in demand is less than proportionate to increase in advertisement expenditure. EA is greater than 1 but less than, EA is greater than 0 but less than 1. Demand increases in the same proportion in which advertisement expenses increase. EA is equal to 1. Demand increases at a higher rate than cost of advertising, then greater than 1. Is it clear, everyone? And please do these demand distinctions before I start the next chapter. Chalo, done? I have finished. What have you done? Why are you all so sleepy? Can you? Okay, chapter 2, unit 2, let's do the revision. Theory of consumer behavior. Now, what are human wants? What are the characteristics of human wants? Wants are unlimited and the means to satisfy them are limited. But what are we saying? Wants are satiable. Each want can be satisfied. Then wants have difference in intensity. Wants vary from person to person and wants are complementary, meaning there can be one want combined with another want. Wants are competitive. You need to know which want you need to satisfy first. Wants are, they have different ways, alternative ways of satisfying a want. Yehi padh lo yaar. Wants vary with time, place, a person. Wants can become habits, wants can recur again and again, and it is affected by income, taste, fashion and preferences of the consumers. And last one, because of physical or psychological instincts, social obligations and individual economic and social status. What are the classification of wants? Necessaries, comforts and luxuries. What are necessaries? Food, clothing, shelter. Your basic essentials which you need to lead day-to-day life is your necessaries. Comfort. These make your life easier. Some comforts have become necessities today, but comforts mean it's just an additional essential for living. It's not required for day-to-day living, but it makes your life better. Yes? And what are luxuries? Expensive and status symbol. Those are expensive and it's just for status symbol. You really don't need it, but you have it to just splurge money or whatever. Show off. Yeah. Fine. What is meaning of utility? Want satisfying power of a commodity. That is want satisfying power of the commodity. Whether you are utilizing it, consuming it or not, does it have utility? Because you want to consume it. The desire to consume the commodity creates utility for the commodity. Yes? Marginal utility analysis given by Alfred Marshall. What did Alfred Marshall say? What is just utility analysis? Come on. What is it? How consumer chooses to spend his income on various goods and services. How to maximize his satisfaction. Now utility of each commodity is differing as to how you use it. What is total utility? Sum of marginal utilities with every additional unit consumed. With every additional unit consumed. Okay, and what is marginal utility? The change in total utility or addition made to total utility by consuming an additional unit of commodity, which gives satisfaction. What is the formula of MU? TU is MUN, MU1 plus MU2 plus whatever till the nth unit. And what is MUN? TUN minus TUN minus 1. Total utility of current commodity minus total utility of previous commodity. Is that much clear? Yes? Now what is this? This is a marginal utility and demand schedule. Can you see total utility and marginal utility here? Now what is happening? When the quantity consumed of chocolate bar is 1, first unit is consumed, your utility is 20. And as you keep consuming these goods one after the other, what happens to marginal utility? Keeps falling. Total utility increases up to the point of satiation, where MU becomes 0 and TU is maximum. Yes? But is MU continuously decreasing? So TU is increasing but at a diminishing rate. Yes? When TU is increasing, MU is falling. When TU is maximum, MU is? When TU is falling, MU is negative. The reason for diminishing curve or TU increasing at a diminishing rate is because MU is falling. Because marginal utility is falling. So here what is the maximum at which quantity consumed? At 5, your TU is maximum and your MU is 0. Now we've discussed the relationship. The only thing we didn't, MU is the rate of change of total utility or is the slope of the TU curve. Yes? MU is the rate of change. Read it guys, these are questions. MU is the rate of change of total utility or it is the slope of the TU curve. Now this curve, where is the point of satiation? This one, where TU is maximum. So TU has a positive slope or a negative slope? Positive slope but at a diminishing rate. So at satiation point what is happening? TU is maximum, MU is 0. MU is a downward sloping curve. MU is positive, TU is? Guys, don't get confused. Okay? When MU is positive, TU is increasing. When MU is 0, TU is maximum. When MU is negative, TU is falling. TU can never be 0. Yes? The law of diminishing marginal utility. What is law of diminishing marginal utility? Chalo. As a consumer consumes more and more units of a particular commodity, the satisfaction he derives from that commodity becomes lesser and lesser. Yes? The satisfaction he derives becomes lesser and lesser. We took the example of mango, one after the other, or chocolate, whatever it is. So this is law of diminishing marginal utility given by Alfred Marshall. The additional benefit which a person derives from a given increase in the stock of a thing diminishes with every increase in the stock that he already has. In other words, as a consumer increases the consumption of any one commodity, keeping constant the consumption of all other commodities, the marginal utility of the variable commodity must eventually decline. Now, according to this schedule, what is happening here? Again, MU is falling. And what's happening to total utility? Increases up to a certain period of time. It's the same thing. Again, when TU is positive, MU is? TU is always positive. MU can be anything. When TU is positive, I just said, and all of you thought I'm talking about MU. When MU is positive, TU is increasing. When TU is maximum, MU is 0. When MU is negative, T is falling. Please remember these. Yes? Now, law of DMU is applicable only under certain assumptions. What are the assumptions? They need to be identical in all respects. Next. What should remain unchanged? Income of the consumer should remain unchanged. Next. They should be standard units. It could be measurable. You could be able to number it 1, 2, 3. Next. No time gap or time interval between consumption of one unit and consumption of another unit. Next. They may not be applicable to articles like gold, cash, etc. Because more you have, you will want to consume more. Next. It does not play well with substitutes or complements. Yes? What is consumer surplus? Come on. What the consumer is willing to pay minus what the consumer. So is it the additional benefit which the consumer enjoys by buying a commodity which he would pay a higher price for, but he is paying lower than that? Yes? The utility he derives from that is much higher than what he actually is paying for it. So the difference between them is consumer surplus, given by Alfred Marshall. So consumer surplus is equal to what a consumer is ready to pay minus what he actually pays. Okay, now what is happening here? Marginal utility and price. So marginal utility is what you are ready to pay. Yes? And price is what is the price of that particular commodity. If the price is constant, what is happening? Marginal utility keeps declining with consumption of every unit. Is marginal utility declining? Understand, guys, marginal utility is what? With every unit consumed, the satisfaction they derive from it gets lesser and lesser. That's what is happening here. So what's happening to the consumer surplus? It's decreasing. With every additional unit consumed, consumer surplus is declining. Yes? What else? Anything else about consumer surplus which we are yet to discuss? Graph. Okay, on the graph. It's area below the demand curve and above the price line. It is this area. The area above the demand curve and below the demand curve and above the price line. When does equilibrium be achieved? Now you understand. Till OQ units, till this unit, everything the consumer consumes, he is getting consumer surplus. Up to OQ units, everything is, he is gaining consumer surplus. But beyond that, no consumer surplus. At point OQ, equilibrium. That what you are actually willing to pay and what you are actually paying is same. Okay? And what MU curve is sloping downwards? Why? With every unit consumed, the satisfaction derived from it gets lesser and lesser. Do not forget this, guys, please. When there is a decrease in price, what happens to the consumer surplus? It increases. And when there is an increase in price, consumer surplus decreases. What are applications of consumer surplus? So why do you need it? Chalo. You need to know what kind of customers are going to make repeat purchases. If these customers are going to make repeat purchases, they are happy. Even if you increase the price, they might still buy it. You look at your long-term investments, you look at whether you can increase the price or not. The government looks at all this for taxation purposes. They need to see whether a particular commodity we can increase the tax rate or not, or do we need to decrease the tax rate because people are buying less of it. Are you understanding, guys? Please. I know you don't remember. That's okay, but other than that, do you at least understand what consumer surplus is? Applications? Okay. What are the limitations? It's there, yeah. Pad to lo. Different units have different consumer surplus. It's very difficult to measure it. Understand, by consuming every unit, you have to, there's a new consumer surplus. It's difficult to determine it. Next. It is affected by substitutes and complementaries. Okay. It is infinite. Why is it infinite in case of necessaries? Guys, understand, if an essential product, for example, clothing, the first clothing you wear on the day, suppose today, is the most important thing. It is giving you the maximum possible utility. Are you understanding? That is why the MU of necessaries is infinite. because you need to have it. Are you understanding then? Utility of money is constant. MU of money is constant under diminishing marginal utility. In this case, I am asking you, is MU of money constant? Read and answer. Use of money is what? Because Marshall only, guys, same आदमी यही चीज बोल रहा है. Please do not get confused. I'll read that point also. Consumer surplus cannot be measured in terms of money because the marginal utility of money as purchases are made and the consumer stock of money diminishes. Okay. Now this concept can be measured in terms of money or otherwise. The concept can be accepted only if it is assumed that utility can be measured in terms, but it is not assumed. It is saying this can be successful only if it is measured in terms of money, but it is not. What is indifference curve analysis? What's happening in indifference curve analysis? Chalo. It is a combination of two goods which give you the same level of satisfaction. The consumer is indifferent towards which bundle he chooses. Yes, it is a ordinal concept. Here you select based on preferences. Yes, just preferences you give. It's an ordinal concept. It's given by Hicks and Allen. See, lot of people have explained indifference curve analysis, but we are reading the one given by Hicks and Allen. Is that clear? Now what are the assumptions? Underlying indifference curve approach. Consumer is rational. Consumer knows his tastes and preferences. None of you have studied. My God, beautiful. Okay. I'll be sad later. It's your test. Okay, what else? What else can be happening? Consumer needs to have knowledge about what's happening in the market. Needs to know his own tastes and preferences. You are assuming that the consumer knows his own tastes and preferences. He is rational. What else? Utility is ordinally expressible. It's not cardinal utility. Cardinal utility is in diminishing marginal utility. Here it is ordinal. Want, it can be transitive, meaning which want needs to be satisfied when, like which commodity or bundle is selected is based on ordinal concept because it gives the same level of satisfaction, guys. No, yes. The more, the better. What does that mean? More number of quantity of a certain product is always better, right? No. When you take a bundle, you're talking about two commodities. Yes? When you're talking about two commodities, you will always want to have more of both. Yes or no? So, more is better. These are the assumptions. Yes, no? Indifference curve. Now, like we've spoken about, it's a combination of two goods which give you the same level of satisfaction. Now, it is also called a iso-utility curve or a equal utility curve. Now, what is happening here? Chalo. There is a combination of two goods which is food and clothing, and this is marginal rate of substitution. Now, combination of food and clothing is going to be in such a way that how you are going to match the marginal utility of food and marginal utility of clothing. Because if you have to forego now 1 unit of food and 12 units of clothing. So, what has to be done here? MU of what is high? Food is high or clothing is high? MU of food is high, MU of clothing is low. Now to match the MUs, you will have to forego more units of clothing for additional unit of food. Yes? Now what's happening here? Chalo. What is marginal rate of substitution? It is nothing but how you substitute unit of one commodity for unit of another. How many units of one commodity need to be foregone to get an additional unit of the other commodity. That is marginal rate of substitution. Now what is happening here? Come on guys. At point A, what is happening? MU of food is high, clothing is. So now you have to match it. What happens? You have to forego units of clothing more for an additional unit of food. So for 2 units of food, how much does clothing become? 6. So you have foregone 6 units of clothing. Yes or no? Now what happens? MU of food also has come a little lesser. What happens to MU of clothing? Increases. So is the total utility balanced of both the products? Total utility of food is equal to total utility of clothing. Only then you can derive the same level of satisfaction, guys. Please do not get confused in that. So here, as we've written, large reduction in clothing is required for an additional unit of food. Yes, no, okay. Okay. Now, MRS is continuously falling. Reason? There is an inverse relationship between combination of both the goods. That's why MRS is always falling. What else? Chalo. As he consumes more and more units of food and lesser units of clothing, he will not want to forego more units of clothing for additional units of food. So as he goes on consuming, his necessity or requirement or satisfaction derived from food gets lesser and lesser. The concept is the same. Yes, but here you're talking about combination of two goods. In diminishing marginal utility, we're talking about single commodity. Here you're talking about combination of two. So basically the level of satisfaction needs to remain the same. Now basically you have to counterbalance both. Yes, no? Counterbalance what? TU of food is equal to T of clothing. So your formula would be MUF into delta QF, that is the quantity of food, and it will be MU of clothing into quantity of clothing is equal to MU of food is into quantity of food. Because you are gaining food, it's positive. Because you are losing clothing, it's a negative side. Is that clear? Yes? When you talk about substitutes, what happens to MRS in case of substitutes? Constant. Because if they are substitutes, they are the same thing. If you lose 1 unit of this, you will gain 1 unit of this. There is not going to be any kind of substitution. No excess units lost. What is the formula of the marginal rate of substitution of x for y? The slope of indifference curve is MRS xy is equal to MUX by MUY. And as you keep moving down the MRS slope, what is happening? The substitution, the reason for substituting becomes lesser and lesser. Yes? Okay. Indifference curve map. What is indifference curve map? It is a set of indifference curves which show different level of satisfaction. Yes? It is a set of indifference curves which show different levels of satisfaction. Now what happens in indifference curve? This same indifference curve, same level of satisfaction. Different indifference curves, different level of satisfaction. Higher the indifference curve, higher will be the level of satisfaction, because more is better. It's the assumption. More is better. So more number of units, the better the satisfaction. Yes? And it shows a complete picture of consumers' tastes and preferences. Now, what are the properties of indifference curve? First, indifference curve slopes downward to the right. Reason? MRS is falling and level of satisfaction should remain the same. So, when you forego certain units of this good to get additional unit of that. So, there is an inverse relationship between the two goods. Next, indifference curves are always convex to origin. Why are they always convex? Diminishing marginal rate of substitution. कभी ना MRS की जगह marginal rate of substitution आ गया तो तुम confuse ना हो जाओ, है ना? It is still MRS. What is MRS? Marginal rate of substitution. So diminishing MRS means again there is an inverse relationship. You need to lose some to gain some. Yeah. Now there are two exceptions to this. First is substitute. Second is complementary. Perfect substitutes. If two goods are perfect substitutes, then you consume this or this does not matter. So MRS is constant. So it will be parallel. The MRS of substitutes would be parallel lines because they are constant. Because you forego 1 unit of this, you are gaining 1 unit of this. Okay? So there is no sense of doing marginal rate of substitution there. And in case of perfect complements, understand we took the example of left shoe and right shoe in case of perfect complements. Yes? Now, say you are talking about 2 earrings and 2 shoes, left and right. This is A plus B and this is X plus Y. Okay. You can't take this and this. You can't take this and this. You will need a combination of both. So perfect complements, the MRS is undefined because they always work only in a bundle. You can't talk about combination of two goods. Are you understanding, everybody? You can't talk about one earring and one shoe. There is no comparison. So that is why MRS is undefined. Indifference curve can never intersect each other because at one point one indifference curve is higher, at another point another indifference curve is higher. It is not possible. Okay. Next, a higher indifference curve represents higher level of satisfaction than a lower indifference curve because more utility is derived. Indifference curve will not touch either of the axes because it's a combination of two goods. Because it is a combination of goods. It cannot be zero. It will be always a combination of two goods. What is the budget line? Budget line is the budget constraint, which is nothing but the budget available to you to buy these two commodities. You will want more is better, more utility, but you are limited by the budget constraint. What money you have, that only you can spend. For this assumption, we say that I am spending 100% of my nominal income. I am spending 100% of my nominal income on these two goods. Price of good X plus price of good Y should be limited to the budget available. Yes? So whatever indifference curve you are choosing should be limited to your budget. Now different points on the budget line. Do they give you the same? See, there is the same budget. You have different points. I am saying that combination of A and B in such a way that the result is within, suppose 100, if I take as an example of 100 is the budget. So within that, can I take any combination which leads to 100? Yes or no? So it's a set of points which give you the same level of satisfaction with the budget available. Yes? Budget line is also called as price line. Yes, it is called a price line. Tukka acha tha, but yeah, it is called price line. Great. Chalo. Now, first you say Px into Qx plus Py into Qy is limited to the budget. But the assumption here is he spent 100% of his nominal income. So it should be equal to the budget constraint. Yes? Now what is happening here? You have a choice of ice cream which is 20 rupees and chocolate which is 10 rupees. All the combinations, are they showing a 100 combination? Everything which we are purchasing, 100 is the combination. You can choose any one of the combination. Yes? Now what is happening? Chalo. If you are overspending, you can't. You don't have the money to do it. If you are underspending, the assumption is you have to spend 100% of your nominal income. But you spend less than the budget, it is underspending. More than the budget, overspending. Slope of budget line is Px by Py. Now what it does, it depend upon the income of the consumer. Obviously what he is ready, what he can pay. Then rate at which consumer can trade one good for the other. Rate at which the consumer can spend one good for the other. Can one good be zero in case of budget line? Because you can select what is the price you are okay with spending for one good and the other good. But in case of indifference curve, it's a combination of two goods. Till we are clear about it. When will a budget line shift? Either the price of one of the commodity changes and income remains the same, or income remains the same and prices of goods change, or both change. Then the budget line will shift. What is consumer equilibrium? It is the maximum possible satisfaction that a consumer will derive and he is in no intention to rearrange his combination. So that is the maximum satisfaction he is deriving and he is in no position to rearrange the purchase of commodities. That is consumer equilibrium. Now what are the assumptions of that? First, the indifference curve shows what? Scale of preferences for various combinations of goods XY. That we know already. What does the indifference curve show? Various combinations. Then he has fixed amount of money. The prices of both the goods are fixed. Then homogeneous means what? All goods are homogeneous and divisible, means you can number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Homogeneous means same. That you're talking about the same A commodities and same B commodities. Yes? And all consumers act rationally and maximize their satisfaction. These are the assumptions. Guys, understand, when we talk about shift, we are just saying there is shift in budget line. But for consumer equilibrium to be achieved, we are assuming that at that point, income is the same, income is fixed, prices are fixed, consumer is rational, it shows combination of scale and preferences, and homogeneous and divisible. Yes, now tell me what is happening here in this graph. Chalo. Indifference curve show what? First you tell me what is an indifference curve. Show taste and preferences of combination for two goods. What does budget line show? Shows the budget constraint, that how much you can afford. Yes? Now what is happening here? You have 5 indifference curves which show different level of satisfactions. Now which indifference curve would you choose and why? IC3, first you need to go to the highest indifference curve, it's IC5, but it's overspending. It's not on our budget line. You can't select IC5. Why do you select IC3? Is it on our budget line? And another point, is it tangent? Is it tangent to the budget line? Your IC3 is tangent to the budget line. This is a point at which maximum satisfaction is derived with the maximum budget available. So MRX by MRY is equal to PX by PY. Your slope of budget line was PX by PY. Slope of indifference curve is MRX by MRY. Yes? So when you say these two are equal, the slopes of both of them are equal, then the consumer is in equilibrium. Yes, no, okay. Is it clear everyone? No confusion? And what is the indifference curve? How is indifference curve analysis superior to utility analysis? First, measurability of utility means what? Assumption of measurability of utility. In case of diminishing marginal utility, what do you do? First, you are talking only about one commodity, here 2 commodities. Here, MU of money is constant in diminishing marginal utility. Here, MU of money is not constant. Here there is no income effect and substitution effect. In indifference curve, there is income effect and substitution effect. What else? Cardinal utility and ordinal utility, guys. Come on. Basic. I revised for myself. I'm going to score 100 on 100. Yay! Okay, great. Revision of this chapter is done. Chalo. Revision chapter 2, unit 3, supply. What constitutes supply? Supply. What constitutes supply? Willingness to supply, ability to supply, reason to offer goods in the market, quantity supplied is at a certain price, its flow of, continuous flow of supply or activities. Yes, guys, please stop talking. Determinants of supply. Chalo. First, price of the good. Price, direct relationship between price of the good and quantity supplied. Higher the price, higher the quantity supplied. Lower the price, lower the quantity supplied. Now what are you talking about price of related goods? Here you are talking about goods which you are producing or manufacturing. If you say that a product is gaining more, is the supply for the demand for a product is more than the demand of product I am already making, I will shift my resources to the other product which is more hit in the market. Basically, where the demand is created more for that product, I want to shift my supply. I gave you an example of novels and comic books. Yes, if you say there are more people buying comic books, instead of novels, I will start printing comic books because I feel the profit would be higher. Prices of factors of production. What is this? Land, labor, capital and organization. See guys, understand, if my input cost is less, my price would be normal and my profit would be higher. Meaning the supply would be more. If my input cost is higher, the price would also be higher. The supply would become automatically lesser and profit will be lesser. So you need to understand with any scenario how to manage your factors of production in such a way that you are able to make profits. Yes? State of technology. What is state of technology? Technology is required for increasing production efficiency and reduce production cost, increasing efficiency, effectiveness of the organization, for factor substitution and saving time. Yes, okay. Faster the products get made, lower cost, low labor. Yeah, okay. Low labor cost or any kind of cost. Higher quantities can be made. How? If the cost is reduced, can you produce higher quantities? Yes or no? So state of technology is very, very important when it comes to supply of good. Anything else? Profits will be more. Yes. Next, government policy. What is spare production capacity? Spare production capacity. The utilization of machinery or whatever they are using is not to maximum. There's something spare available that you can increase the production because without putting in additional capital. Yes, without putting in additional capital, you can increase your productivity and production. Okay. Government policy, what are we talking about? How much the firm would be allowed, in which scenario, what they can produce, how, what is the taxation, what is the subsidy, all this government decides. Then nature of competition and size of the industry. Higher the competition, higher will be the supply in the market. Understand? If there are more number of competitors, say 20, okay, each of them is supplying a commodity. Will the supply not be higher? Yes or no? Next. Expectations, future expectation of prices. In this case, if we are expecting as a supplier that the future price will increase, right now we will supply less. And if we expect future price will decrease, we will supply more. Number of sellers, more number of sellers, more will be the supply. What are the other factors? Government, industrial and foreign policies, goals of the firm, infrastructural facilities, natural factors such as weather, floods, earthquake and man-made factors such as war, labor strikes, communal riots. Okay, now what is law of supply? My God, how many times I had to even write it. Imagine. Okay, what is law of supply? It's a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. So other things remaining the same, ceteris paribus, other things remaining the same, when price increases, quantity supplied also increases. When price falls, quantity supplied also falls. What is the exception? Supply of labor. Guys, supply of labor means you providing services. Don't confuse it कि कोई बंदा लेबर सप्लाई कर रहा है, नहीं. आधे लोग को ये समझ में आया कल, मेरे को मालूम है. You're not supplying labor, your own supply of labor. I am chartered accountant. What I give to my clients, the number of hours or the number of clientele, that I am talking about. Higher the wages of the supply which I provide, lesser will be the supply I give later. Supply of hours I am saying. If I am already earning something I like, I will not want to spend more time on it. I will like those hours of leisure instead of hours of work. That's why supply of labor is an exception. Supply of your own work. Please remember that. What? Anti-product necessities, a lot of exceptions, but for you, thankfully, they've given only one. It is. There are a lot of products. Harmful products. बहुत सारी चीजें हैं which exist in this ground. But guys, I thought, why not? एक ही देते हैं इन बच्चों को. एक ही दिया है उन्होंने. ठीक है? क्यों? तुमको पता है कि कितने जीनियस बच्चे पढ़ते हैं ये? What is the supply schedule? What does it show? At every price, what will be the quantity supplied? At each price, what will be the quantity supplied? So as the price goes on increasing, what happens to the quantity supplied? It also, someone is happy about it. Chalo. Now what is happening with the slope? It is a positive slope. Why? Because there is a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. So the slope is positive and upward sloping. And now, what is the graphical representation of a supply schedule? सप्लाई का, हाँ तो कॉन्फिडेंटली बोलो ना, वो ही जो ऊपर था. This is graphical representation of a supply curve. Okay, now what do you understand? What will happen at the highest quantity? These two points please remember. The supply curve shows simultaneously the highest quantity willingly supplied by suppliers at each price. Highest quantity willingly supplied by suppliers at each price, meaning at every price, what is the maximum which is available to be offered in the market? Every supplier will offer different commodities at different prices. What is the maximum? And the minimum price at which will induce suppliers to offer the various quantities for sale. Understand? Below this, I will not supply anything. Which is the minimum price I will sell at, or the minimum price fixed for supply that I will be willing to offer my products in the market. What is market supply? Sum of all demand for the entire, for that commodity. The entire supply of same commodity. So, entire supply of same commodity at different prices. Yes? Movements on the supply curve, expansion or contraction of supply. When price increases and quantity supplied also increases, there is an expansion in supply. And when there is a decrease in price and quantity supplied decreases, there is a contraction of supply. When there is an expansion of supply, the profit would be more. Producers offer more for sale. When there is contraction of supply, profits will be less. They offer less for sale. This is the movement along the same supply curve. When you are talking about expansion and contraction, you are talking about the movements of the same supply curve. Now shifts in supply curve, increase or decrease in supply. When quantity supplied increases because of other factors except price, then there is increase in supply, meaning rightward shift of the supply curve. Next. When quantity supply decreases because of other factors other than price, then there is a decrease in supply, means leftward shift of the supply curve. Here there is a change in supply. When you talk about expansion and contraction, there is a change in quantity supplied. In expansion and contraction, they are moving along the same curve, and in increase or decrease in supply, there is a shift in the supply curve. There is a new supply curve which is made. Can you see this? There is increase in supply, that the supply curve shift to the right, and here it shift to the left. Clear? What are factors of supply, the determinants of supply? Price of the good, price of related goods, factors of production, state of technology, government policies, expectation of prices, more number nature of competition, number of sellers, and expectation, yes, done, and other factors. Okay, please do not forget them. Elasticity of supply, the responsiveness of quantity supplied to a change in price is elasticity of supply. Percentage change in quantity supplied by percentage change in price. Yes? Formula? Change in quantity by change in price into original price by original quantity. Now, types of supply elasticity. Perfectly inelastic supply. Whether the price increases or decreases, quantity supplied remains the same. Here elasticity of supply is 0. Here elasticity of supply is 0. It is parallel to which axis? Why? Because irrespective of the price, the quantity supplied remains the same. What are the kind of examples in perfectly inelastic? Necessities. Your water, salt, food. Relatively less elastic supply means percentage change in quantity supplied is less than percentage change in price. So, quantity supplied is not very responsive to the change in price. So, you can say supply changes less than proportionately to price. What is the range? 0 to 1. So, 0 is less than elasticity of supply, less than 1. Guys, you should know these ranges. Please remember. Relatively greater elastic supply. Percentage change in quantity supplied is greater than percentage change in price. So they are very responsive to price changes. Yes, what is the range? -1 है, 1 है, क्या है? Guys, please यार, ऐसा बना लो अगर तुमको माइनस दिख रहा है वो. ये लोग geniuses. This is the range, okay? 1 to infinity. So small change in price causes a higher change in quantity supplied. Unitary elastic supply. Percentage change in quantity supplied is equal to percentage change in price. So the supply curve is nothing but a dividing line between the elastic and non-elastic regions. Perfectly elastic supply. ES is infinity. So here they are very sensitive to price change. Extremely sensitive to price change, meaning what? If supplier, now what happens? If supplier increases the price a little bit, what happens to supply? Come on. His supply reaches infinity. And if he reduces the price a little bit, supply becomes 0. Confirm? Done? How does the supply curve look like? Parallel to x-axis. Reason? Technically no price change is happening. The quantity supplied keeps on changing. Yes? Okay, now we did an example which said at different levels how much of production is happening. Now when the price is P1 here, okay, what is happening to the quantity? It's Q1. Okay. Now when the price is increased a little bit, what is happening? Quantity supplied increases a little more than price. So here in this case, which elasticity is following? Relatively greater elastic supply. Yes? Reason? Because firms have idle capacity, guys. They are not running to 100% of their capacity. They have idle capacity. So if you have to just increase a little more, or increase the price a little more, quantity supplied will increase even more because you are using the same raw materials or the same factors of production to produce this. Okay? Then what happens when price jumps to P3? Here full capacity, meaning no idle capacity is left. Here your firm or your organization is using the machinery or the furnace or whatever to 100% of its capacity. Matlab, if my capital equipment is capable of producing 10,000 units, the entire 10,000 units are being produced. Okay? So there is no idle capacity left. So what happens in that case? It's almost similar increase in quantity. How much the price is increased, quantity also has similarly increased. But what happens beyond this? You've already used it to full capacity. You have to increase your capital budget. You have to buy a new plant and machinery, buy a new land, do additional expenditure. Only then you can produce more. In that case, what happens? That price will shoot up because you have to include all your capital expenditures into a single unit of the price. You divide it into each unit. Will the price increase? Very much. But what happens to quantity supplied? Increases less than proportionately to the price. So can you understand elasticities in those regions? Okay. Measurement of supply elasticity. Now how is elastic supply measured? At a given point elasticity here, point elasticity of supply can be measured with the formula ES is equal to dQ by dP into P by Q. dQ by dP is differentiation of the supply function. Guys, in this please remember this. Generally the equations are like this. Whatever is attached with P is your dQ by, this is your dQ by dP. You don't need to know more than this. I will have to spend 2 days with you. Can you see this? This is the equation. This is the kind of equation you're going to get. Can you all see? Yes? So this 10 is nothing but dQ by dP. When you put it in a formula, you understand what is the quantity and then you put it in the formula. Can you do that? You will have to remember this. There is no other choice. If you forget this, then there is no point. Okay? Can you guys understand this? P by Q is the same what we've been doing forever. This is the formula since demand. This is the only thing changing. Yes? Generally it's quantity supplied or quantity demanded. here, but here is dq by dp, that is differentiation of the supply function. What is arc elasticity? Elasticity between two prices and two quantities. Yes, reason for arc elasticity we use. You have two quantities and two prices. You do not know what to be taken as the base price. That's why you use the midpoint formula method. What is the formula? Q2 minus Q1 by Q2 plus Q1 into P2 plus P1 by P2 minus P1. Clear? Now open your notebooks for this. You have written this down according to me. I know you wrote. Determinants of elasticity of supply. Yes, chalo. If there is a increase in production, the cost increases, quantity supplied reduces and elasticity is less. Second, constant cost, output increases, quantity supplied increases and elasticity is more. Second point, what are we saying here? Long period of time is better than shorter period of time because you get more time to adjust. So, longer period of time elasticity is more. Shorter period of time elasticity is lesser. Next, three cases. Higher degree of competition, large number of producers and fewer barriers of entry into the market. In all these three scenarios, supply is more elastic. Next, greater the spare capacity, greater will be the elasticity of supply. Why? Can increase the output without a rise in cost. Next, raw materials are cheaply and easily available, and if raw materials cheaply and easily available, elasticity is higher. Next, different. If it's difficult to procure raw materials, the cost of production increases, hence the elasticity goes down. Next, easy storage of raw materials, finished goods and work in progress. If there is easy storage, elasticity is high. Difficulty in storage, elasticity is low. Then, capital and labor are easily substitutable. You find their substitutes easily or you find the inputs easily. Either or. Either the substitutes or they are commonly available. If they are commonly available, the elasticity is high. If they are difficult to procure them or it's a delay in procuring them, elasticity becomes low. Because if there's a delay in procuring raw materials, automatically your production process delays. Yes? Okay. Next. Last one. Capital and labor are mobile. And expectation of future prices. What does expectation of future prices mean here? Price changes, elasticity of supply changes based on expectation of future prices. If price is increasing at a future date, elasticity of supply right now is less or more? Less. And if prices are decreasing at a future date, supply more. Clear? Everyone? What is equilibrium price? Chalo. Let's start first. Determination of market price is central theme of microeconomic theory. This microeconomic theory is also called as price theory. Okay. Now what is happening here? Now you tell me. Equilibrium price is interaction between demand and supply. It's an interaction between demand and supply. What is the market clearing price? Amount that the buyer wants to buy is equal to the amount that the seller wants to sell at. When is market equilibrium achieved? The unique point at which the buyer and seller are both satisfied with the price and quantity. It's a unique point at which buyers and sellers are both satisfied with the price and quantity. Now you can see a supply and demand schedule both here. Yes, no. So what is happening here? Quantity demanded and quantity supplied. When price is 5, what is quantity demanded? 6. Quantity supplied? So is quantity supplied more than quantity demanded? What needs to be done? Price needs to be reduced so that quantity demanded increases and quantity supplied reduces a little bit. So they come to a balance. Yes? And what happens at 3? Quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So are they at equilibrium here? Yes? Because both buyers and sellers are satisfied with the price and quantity. Yes? So that is market equilibrium. What is market clearing price? Amount that buyers want to buy is equal to amount that sellers want to sell. Guys, there are different questions. If I'm asking you something specifically in your MCQ, if I say market clearing price, you have to tell the amount that buyers want to buy is equal to the amount that sellers want to sell. If I'm asking you market equilibrium, a unique point at which both buyers and sellers are satisfied with the price and quantity. Yes? Chalo, at 1, the price 1, what is happening? Quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. So now the excess buyers are available in the market. What happens here? Price needs to increase so that the quantity demanded falls and quantity supplied increases. Yes? So this is the point of equilibrium. Here you are achieving market equilibrium. Chalo. Here the interaction of demand and supply at a point at which they meet where both buyers and sellers are happy with the price and quantity. Market equilibrium and social efficiency. What is producer surplus? Chalo, producer surplus. Total revenue minus total expenditure? Variable cost. Yes. Total revenue minus total variable cost. You can also say it is price offered by the company minus price they actually receive minus what they were ready to sell at is your profit, right, guys? You generally just understand producer surplus in the sense of profit. It will be easy for you. Okay? Now, what is consumer surplus? Price the consumer is ready to pay minus the price he actually pays. It's the area below the demand curve above the price line, and producer surplus is the area above the supply curve and below the price line. Above the supply curve, below the price line. Yes, sure, confident? Do you understand this? So I am saying up to point OQ, what is happening here? You tell me. Consumer is also enjoying surplus, producer is also enjoying surplus. No, yes, what's happening, Baba? Something you will write. Okay.